At exactly 2:47 a.m., the police received a frantic call from a woman who lived alone on the outskirts of town. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "There's someone in my house, but I can't see them." By the time authorities arrived, her front door was wide open. The security cameras? Disconnected. No sign of forced entry. But the strangest part? The only footprints inside were hers. Reddit has been home to some of the most bone-chilling, real-life horror stories. Tales that make you question reality itself. But among thousands, a few have stood out, stories that weren't just terrifying, but also unexplainable. They went viral for a reason. And tonight, we uncover why. Story 1. The room that wasn't there. It all started with a simple home renovation. A Redditor named Ethan bought an old house built in the early 1900s. The price was suspiciously low, but he didn't question it until he discovered something impossible. One day, while tearing down an old wall to expand his living room, he found a hidden door. It wasn't on the house's blueprints. It wasn't supposed to exist, but it did. When Ethan forced it open, he found a small, windowless room. Inside, a dusty bed, a diary from 1954, and a rotting plate of food, as if someone had just been there. The diary belonged to a young girl, Margaret, who had allegedly gone missing in 1955. Each page described how her parents would lock her in this secret room for days, punishing her for reasons unknown. The last entry read, "They told me I'd be free if I stayed quiet, but I hear scratching." They lied. Ethan felt a chill. He turned to leave, but as he did, the door slammed shut. When he finally forced it open, the room was gone. The door, just a solid wall again. He moved out the next day. The diary, left behind. And Margaret's case, still unsolved. Story 2. My dead brother's Reddit account started posting again. A user named Kyle shared this experience, and it left the internet speechless. Kyle's brother, Jason, had passed away in a tragic accident 3 years ago. His family had long since deactivated his social media accounts, except his Reddit profile, which had been inactive since his death. Or so they thought. One night, Kyle received a Reddit notification. Jason replied to your comment. His blood ran cold. He clicked it, expecting it to be a hack, but it was his brother's old account. The reply? A single sentence. "I never left." Kyle checked the account's activity. It had posted something new, a thread titled, "Where did I go?" The text inside? A description of his own funeral, in terrifying detail. The flowers, the music, the things people whispered when they thought no one could hear. Kyle deleted the account, but the next night, a new post appeared. "You can't delete me." He never logged in again. Story 3. The man in my security camera. It was around 3:30 a.m. when Lauren, a young woman living alone, was woken up by a notification from her home security app. Motion detected. Front door. She tapped the alert, and what she saw made her stomach drop. The camera feed showed a man standing at her doorstep, staring at the camera with a lifeless grin. No movement, no blinking, just staring. Lauren was frozen. Then, her phone buzzed again. Motion detected. Living room. Her breath caught. Living room? But she was home alone. With shaking hands, she switched to the next camera feed, and there he was, inside, standing right behind her. What makes these stories go viral? These aren't just ghost stories. They're psychological nightmares. They take something familiar, a house, a camera, an old account, and twist it into something that makes people question their own reality. Each story has an unsolved mystery. Who was behind Jason's account? Where did the hidden room go? A psychological hook, the idea that something could be watching, could be near, but unseen. A terrifying what-if factor. Could this happen to you? But the scariest part? Some of these stories might just be real. Story 4. The phone that shouldn't exist. It started with a simple misdial. A Reddit user named Rachel received a call from an unknown number. When she picked up, she heard static and her own voice. "Hello, who is this?" she asked. A pause, then a whisper. "You." Chills ran down her spine. The call ended abruptly. Curious and unnerved, she checked her call history. The number that called her, it was her own. She assumed it was a glitch until she played the voicemail left behind. It was her own voice, trembling and desperate. "Rachel, don't go home. Please. He's already inside." She immediately called the police. When they arrived at her house, They found her front door open and muddy footprints leading up the stairs. But there was no one there. Story 5. The last passenger on the subway. A night shift worker named Daniel took the subway home every night. One evening, he dozed off and woke up to an empty train, except for one person. A woman in an old-fashioned dress sat across from him, staring blankly ahead. Something about her seemed off, too still, too pale. When he moved, her eyes followed. The train stopped at the last station. Daniel stood up. So did she. He exited. She did too. Daniel turned back to look at her, and she was gone. A few days later, he found an old newspaper clipping. It was about a woman who had gone missing in 1952, last seen at that very subway station. These are the stories that haunt us, the stories that make us wonder, are we truly alone? Or is something watching, waiting, just beyond what we can see?